Mizzah, it's the show about Mizzah Tee. It's the show about Mizzah Tee. What's up, gamers? Big T back here with another video, and this one is going to be about, the recent, it's going to be somewhat based on the recent rumors about the multiple Mario games that could be coming to Switch. So that idea kind of prompted this discussion. Basically, my tweet was a hot take tweet, and I put out there, I was just like, F these remakes and these remasters. I'm done. I'm not buying anymore. And for the most part, that's gonna hold true. With a hot take, it's of the moment, and you're not able to give out your kind of stipulations and your nuances on that. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, because if you know me, I'm all about nuances. I've talked about ports and whatnot before. I'm not against ports as an idea, but I do worry about what it may take away from potential new games. And that's the same thing with remasters. And actually, it's more so because it's like remasters and remakes will take more time, because a port is just a port. You have to go in and you have to work with the user interface and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's the same game, so there's not a whole lot going on there. But with a remaster, you have to go in and rework things. You may be switching out textures sometimes. It's not just a straight up re-resing of the game and bumping up the frame rate or something like that. And I'm going to show games that, in particular, mostly going to be Zelda games. But they actually lend a lot to the argument I want to make here, as far as why I'm done with remasters and why I just don't care about them. And also that I feel like they do not as much as ports do, but they do take away resources from newer games. And I'm actually going to have something that leads into that as well. So let's get started here. All right. So like I said, I put out the tweet and I said I would elaborate in a video later. I wanted to elaborate on the reason why I'm deciding I'm done with remasters. And I also added in the fact that, with Hollywood, they don't get a pass when it comes to remaking things or remasters. People get upset about those. And it's similar. Obviously, it's not the same thing, because you're talking about interactive media with video games and movies. You're just kind of sitting back and you're watching something. So obviously, your nostalgia of that, the time that you saw it, if you were a kid or whatever, you don't want that to be messed with, that kind of thing, that kind of purist nature in you. But I think more so is a more practical reason to why I don't want to buy remasters or partake. For the most part, I think we have on Switch, we have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition coming out in a couple months here. So for that game, I'm giving somewhat of a pass, because that game never really got a full chance on any console. But if you look at the Wii game that came out in 2011, it came out in a disjointed manner. We had to beg for it, first of all, to get it over here. So we had to kind of beg for it. And then when we got it, it was a GameStop exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. I used to go to the GameStop all the time anyway, so I got it there. I wasn't completely in tune to the whole Operation Rainfall thing. I kind of knew about it, but I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention. So GameStop had the game. I went in, got it. I think there was 3 copies there that day. There was a certain amount of quantities that were put out there, and it wasn't given a full-fledged release for everybody at the same time to be hyped about it and go out and get it. It was just kind of only GameStop stores, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. But it was a limited release. So, and then we finally got this version here, which is the 3DS version. But it's not the 3DS version, it's the new 3DS version. So if you didn't have a new 3DS, you couldn't play this game, because it required that extra oomph, the little extra power that a new 3DS had to allow you to play this game. So again, the game's released, but it's not a full-fledged release for everybody, because there were millions, tens of millions of people who had a 3DS at the time this game came out, but they may not have had a new 3DS. So that audience could have been at the tops 15 million people. So it's almost like a Wii U situation for this game. So it would have been hard for it to do well there. Now we're finally getting a full-fledged, release to a popular console for this game, and it has new content, which is great. So that's also a thing that separates it, because it has new content. And so that's why I'm giving it a pass, because it never had a full-fledged release, this game. And so for the vast majority of people, they'll be playing, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. That'll be the first time they ever touch this game for most people. So I'm giving that game sort of a pass when it comes to this. But we've heard talks about Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, and all that stuff. They're not going to do anything for me, and I know why, because I've been down that road before. Here's two instances where I went down that remastered road. Oh, I love these games. These are classic games. It'd be great to play them, on a new system or whatever. Now, yeah, the new system happens to be 3DS, and so that might have turned a lot of people off because they wanted to play console versions of these games. So I could kind of get that, but I think these games fit a handheld better today than they did. Obviously, they were console games, but today they're looked at it. They're very much smaller games today, so they don't. If you put this out without like a full remake and you add a whole bunch of stuff, they won't feel like big console games. So it made a lot of sense to put these on 3DS, and that was a great idea. And I love the 3D in these games. A lot of people didn't like the 3D of the 3DS. I understand that, but especially with the new 3DS with the camera that follows you, so you don't have to worry about finding that perfect angle to get 3D. This game is phenomenal to play in that mode. The 3D is really good in this game. Most changes I liked. Like there was a lot of nice texture work, character model work was excellent, but there was also stuff that took away from what the original did, with like the lighting and whatnot. They kind of bumped up, specifically like the Ganon fight at the end. They made it much brighter when it was way cooler, I thought, being dark, and it was more scary that way. That fight was, and they did stuff like that to make things more visible. And I think they didn't realize that, I don't think that was a hardware limitation thing. I think that was a atmosphere thing, and so this game loses some atmosphere because of that. And as far as Majora's Mask goes, it not only just changes that kind of stuff, it changes like mechanics. Now there's some good changes, like the Bomber's Notebook and stuff like that. You can keep track of your mask and all that stuff, and the tasks, and you can do that way better in this game. But it changes mechanics of the game to where I'm talking about controls, like the floating mechanic with when you're Deku Link, and also more importantly, Zora Link, the swimming is so slow, and it's way harder to pull off maneuvers and stuff like that in this version of the game. And it completely changes dungeons and stuff like that. So in boss battles, especially. But that's not even the biggest problem. The thing is, for me, my feel for both of these games was on the original hardware. So I have this ritual to where I go, and I don't always complete, but I replay stuff like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie and just a plethora of games that I've played in the past that I just keep playing. Those classics, I keep going back to them. All the Mario 2D titles, stuff like that. I go to them every year. I don't always beat them in the year, but I make sure I stay on point with playing those games. And so when I go back to older consoles, I still have that feel. And the thing is, I never got a good feel. You could say it was a 3DS slider, stuff like that. But I've downloaded Ocarina of Time. Have I downloaded Majora's Mask? I'm not sure. On my Wii U from the Virtual Console, and I barely play through those. I always end up going back to the original hardware for that N64 controller. So that's the thing. When I get really excited about these remakes, and I got excited about those, and when they come out, I play them for a few hours, and they go on the shelf or they go in the drawer, and I never finish them. And that's the same case for these two and more Zelda games. Twilight Princess, I was really excited for this, but I was more excited even for Wind Waker, because the thing about Wind Waker, the art style is so beautiful. You remember it in HD in your memory, so you always remembered it looking this good, but it didn't look this good. But it still looks great on GameCube. But they had some really smart fixes. With your inventory, with they changed up the Triforce hunt at the end, so they streamlined a lot of that stuff. A lot of the complaints with the game, they streamlined, with the having to pull out your Wind Waker, having to pull out your Wind Waker every time you wanted to go in a certain direction in the Great Sea, and they just streamlined and made it quicker and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. But I still have yet to beat this game. I'm barely off. What is it? Onset Island to get on the pirate ship and sail off to that fortress where you do the sneaking and try to save your sister and stuff. But this is not just with Zelda games. With all remasters, Skyrim, it's not really a remaster. It kind of is on Switch. I got 20 hours in on that game for the Switch version. Will I beat it? I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever go back and beat it the way I did on 360. And so that's a major problem. And I think developers, publishers, they know that we are nostalgic and we get excited for these things, and they pump them out, and we're really excited for them. But I think a lot of us just don't finish them. Let me know if you do, because I don't. And I look at the Crash trilogy. I played it for a little while. I beat all the Crash games on PS1, and it's not a feel thing or anything like that, because the trilogy remastered or remake is fantastic. Like, it's really nice. It looks really good, and I think it's a much better experience if you want to play those games. Play it that way. I'm not overly nostalgic for you having to play it on PS1, but again, I played them for a little bit, and I'm like, well, I know these games, I know where they're going, and it's just like, And even with Xenoblade Chronicles, I feel that might happen as well. Yeah, it looks visually a lot nicer. Sometimes it looks closer to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, especially with the character models and whatnot. But am I really gonna play through that game again? I don't know. Especially with the somewhat archaic battle system. After playing something like X and even Xenoblade Chronicles 2, am I gonna want to go back to that battle system? I don't know. They're streamlined and they're fixing things, but I think stuff like that is fundamental, so they can't really change it. So I just don't know. And I feel like these things, again, this is also from an artist's perspective. I am a writer, I am a filmmaker. So this is from a perspective of like, I understand it's just easy to do that and to get that money, get that nostalgic money and stuff like that. Or it's just easy to do it because you don't have to like come up with the world and come up with a storyline. It's already there, and you have a built-in fan base. Just put something really nicer together and put it out there, and you can make guaranteed money. So I get that aspect, but I feel like right now, especially in gaming, this was happening about 5 to 7 years ago in movies, where it was just like remake after remake after remake, RoboCops and Total Recalls and all this stuff that should never be remade was coming out. And I feel like that's even more so in video games. It's like really flooding right now with remakes and remasters or enhanced this. Or it bothers me that Microsoft is the company. I have to defend Microsoft here, and I don't want to do it. They're the company that's like, well, you can go take that older game that you bought back then, or maybe you just bought a used copy a couple years ago, and put it in your current gen console, and it will enhance it. It will bring it up to modern standards as far as resolution and even frame rates. I think of like Elder Scrolls 3. I always point that out because that's one of the bigger games, or it's one of the games that I played back in the day, and I really remember. And I put it into my Xbox One, and it looks so much better visually, and it runs so much better. And it's just like, wow, I didn't have to pay for a damn thing. I didn't have to go out and pay $30 to $40 to $60 to get that. I just got it, I just put my old game in and got it. I mean, just imagine, how cool would it be if those, let's say, Wii U games you bought and registered with Nintendo back in the day, stuff like Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, and Bayonetta, and stuff like that re-released on Switch. how cool would it be if, that registered game that you paid for on Wii U back in the day, because it was tied to your account, you could just now download it to the Switch when it released on the Switch, to the eShop with enhancements, with those, whatever enhancements those games came with. Some of them had better frame rates, some of them had better resolution and stuff. So you'd be able to download that game that you already bought. You'd be able to download it for free, or maybe, like they did with Wii U, maybe there's a little purchase. Maybe there's a $2 purchase or whatever for the enhancement or whatever. And, that game is now digital, at least, on your Switch. And that's basically what Microsoft is allowing you to do right now. And will continue with the Series X for current gen Xbox One games. You'll be able to play those enhanced versions on your Series X with better visuals and frame rates and all that stuff. And, people will say, well, I don't care about that, but yet they go out and they buy remasters all the time. So you do obviously care about better visuals on those old games that you used to play, or better frame rates and stuff. So that's something you obviously care about. So we can kill that argument now. So my point is that, you have Microsoft, who I don't want to defend, I say again, but I have to in this aspect, because they're really good at this. This is something they should be lauded for. They're allowing you to play those old games enhanced on your current gen console at no extra charge. So you can go out and buy used copies of those games right now, and you just pay the used copy fee, $12 or whatever, and you can play, that enhanced game. You can pop that right into your Series X or your Xbox One right now and get enhanced. And that's all I'm saying. Why can't Nintendo do that? We have accounts. We've moved over stuff before, and it's just, it just sucks that the gold standard, it used to be the gold standard for customer service and consumer friendliness, Nintendo is behind Microsoft of all people, of all companies when it comes to this. And that's just not the way it should be. As a Nintendo fan, I don't want it to be that way.
With Xbox One backward compatibility, we won't charge you to play the games you already own.
I understand there's a lot of young people out there that haven't played these games, but if you've been sitting around for 5, 6, 10 years and you're a gamer and you haven't had the inkling to, I want to play this Mario game. You're a Mario fan and this will be the first time you play Mario Sunshine. Like, you haven't had as a Mario fan, the inkling to say, all right, I'm gonna spend $35 or whatever it is to get a used GameCube Mario Sunshine or whatever, or N64 to get Mario 64, or just go to the eShop on Wii U or Wii and download it if you have those means. Like, I just don't understand. You're just sitting around waiting and hoping that these remasters come before they're announced. Why, as a fan, wouldn't you go out and get those things? I know me as a fan, back when I was your age, not just now, but when I was younger, I was, choosing between ramen noodles or a nice steak dinner, or playing the cool game I want. And I chose the game and ramen noodles because I'm that much into it. I'm that much of a gamer. And so I bought stuff that I shouldn't have bought at the time, because I'm such a fan and I wanted to play those things. And for me, again, I'm not speaking for everybody, I don't understand. If you're a fan of something, you really a big fan of something, wanting, instead of sitting around whining why is it not on your current console, go out and get that old console. Because you know why? It doesn't just stop with that game. Now you can go back and you can kind of see some games behind me. You can build up your library and play other stuff that will never come to your current consoles. It's just never going to come. No matter how long you sit around and pout, it's not going to come. So it's just like spending $60 on, obviously, well, Mario 64 is probably going to cost you more than that. I don't know what it costs. Maybe it's probably $30, and getting a N64 is another, $35 or so, depending on where you get it. Probably get it for cheaper than that. You can luck out and find it at a thrift store or something. You buy that, and maybe you might need a converter. That's another $10, so $70. And you got, that game, and you can play it, but you can also say, hey, well, I heard about this game, Banjo-Kazooie, blah, blah, blah. Let me check that out. You know, maybe you don't have an Xbox and you don't want to play that version, or you have no means to play that version. Maybe you want to play the original version on the N64, and you can now buy that for a few dollars. I don't know, $10 to $15. And so you have a whole opening. It's not just, you know, so you spend $60 on that remaster or whatever. Let's say you do that, or a remake. Remakes are a little different, but remasters especially. You spend $60 on that remaster, all you get is that game. But if you put that $60, $70 into getting an older console, buying that game, now you have a resource. You know, now you have something of more value, because you can go look at other titles on that system, and you won't be spending a whole lot depending on what games you buy. You know, you can spend anywhere from $7 to $70, and it just depends on what you get. If you're getting like Conker's Bad Fur Day, for some reason that game sold decent pretty well, and there was plenty copies, but for some reason they upcharge that crazy on eBay and whatnot. But that's what I'm saying, though. You have this whole resource as a fan, and then you can dig into the history. Like for me, I love hip hop music. But it wasn't enough for me to just listen to I'm old, so I did grow up with a lot of stuff. But it wasn't just enough for me to listen to the stuff that was popular when I was 15. You got to go back and like see where it came from and check out the beginnings. Check out 77 and Cool Herc and South Bronx, and you got to do that stuff if you're really a fan of something. And it shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be, oh man, I got to do that. It should be a great discovery. It should be a fun thing to do as a fan. So that's where I'm coming from as far as these remasters go. Remakes are a little different because you have the Resident Evil games. Those are remakes, and they're the same storyline, same setting and whatnot, but very different camera angle, very different visuals, and a bit different gameplay setup. So that's different. And then something like this game, A Link Between Worlds. This is set in the same place, you know, the same world as A Link to the Past, but yet it's a completely different game. And I would rather something like this happen, where you can have that nostalgia with that world and that setup, but you get a completely new game with that. You know, this is something I would rather companies spend their resources on, not just Nintendo, but everybody. And that's why I said, again, Resident Evil, Capcom is on the outs with me right now, but I think that is way better of something to purchase today. And even, I don't like it. What is it? Final Fantasy VII Remake, or they just call it Final Fantasy VII. They don't even call it a remake, which is, you know, a whole nother video. But it's the same area, it's the same setup. They're expanding. They're at least expanding on the first part of the game. I don't know how much they're going to get out of Midgar. I guess they're going to get a lot out of it because they're making one game about it. So when it's like maybe 5 hours in the original game. So they're fleshing it out. It's not just a straight up remake. They're at least fleshing the game out. It's different. I don't care for it, but I would accept that better than I would accept like a straight up remake remaster. So that's just my take on it. Again, this is not me telling you what you should do, how you should feel. This is my channel, so I'm talking about how I feel about it. So and I would think that's what you come here for, not for me to reinforce your beliefs. I mean, obviously that also is a thing that people like. People like to hear their favorite YouTubers and whatnot say, yeah, I like that game you like, and that's true. I mean, but you also want more personal things, I would think, and real takes from people, instead of just saying, yeah, everything is great the way it is, I'm with you on everything. To me, it's more interesting to debate, and you know, we all still like the same things, but we can debate around the boundaries of what we like. So that's my take on it. I hope you guys understand better than my little hot take. Not that people were jumping on my head about it, but I just wanted to clarify where I was coming from with that. So yeah, that's my take on it. Hope you guys liked the video. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I'm going to be putting out more videos because I have nothing else to do. Well, I still have a little work to do, but it's not as much, obviously, with what's going on in the world, obviously. But if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'm trying to do a variety of things. I'm working on some Sega videos. I'm working on more gaming knowledge videos, and not just current event stuff, which I still will do that. Obviously, I just dropped a Nintendo Mini Direct video, so that's current event. But yeah, I'm trying to get into more stuff, but hope you liked it. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Make sure you hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.